Ambassador Claire Morgan stood at the window of her small office, looking out at the alien city below. The buildings of the Velthary homeworld rose like twisted spires of glass and metal, their surfaces catching the light of 3 distant moons. She had been living on this world for 3 years now, longer than any human before her. 3 years of careful words, measured smiles, and endless patience. 3 years of being treated like something less than equal. The invitation lay on her desk behind her. Heavy paper made from some plant she couldn't name, covered in flowing script that her translator struggled to read. High Chancellor Zorath was hosting a formal dinner at his palace. All the noble houses would attend, and for the first time in Velthary history a human had been invited. Her aide, Lieutenant Kevin Shaw, stood near the door with his arms crossed. He was a tall man with worried eyes and a habit of speaking his mind even when Claire didn't want to hear it. Right now, he was speaking very loudly indeed. "This is a trap," he said, for the 3rd time. "Everyone knows it's a trap. Our intelligence people have been screaming about it for days. The Velthary Council has a faction that wants us gone from the Alliance. They want humanity pushed back to Earth and forgotten." Claire turned from the window. "I know. Then why are you even considering this?" "Because refusing would be worse." She walked to her desk and picked up the invitation. The paper felt strange against her fingers, too smooth, almost like touching water. The Velthary made everything beautiful. Even their threats came wrapped in elegance. "If I refuse," Claire continued, "I insult the High Chancellor. I give his enemies proof that humans are cowards who can't be trusted. I set back diplomatic relations by a decade, maybe more." Kevin shook his head. "And if you go and they kill you? Then humanity sends someone else. Someone less patient than me. Someone who might remind the Velthary why Earth survived its own wars." She smiled at his expression. Kevin was a good man, loyal and careful. But he didn't understand what this dinner really meant. It wasn't just about trade agreements or political alliances. It was about respect. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for only 50 years. 2 species like the Velthary, who had sailed between stars for 10,000 years. Humans were children playing at being adults. Claire was tired of being treated like a child the day of the dinner. It came too quickly. Claire spent hours preparing, choosing her clothes with care. She wore the formal dress of an Earth ambassador, deep blue with silver trim, the colors of her homeworld's sky and seas. Her medical implant hummed quietly beneath her skin, monitoring her vitals, ready to respond to any emergency. It was standard equipment for all human diplomats. Their bodies were fragile compared to most alien species, and technology had to make up the difference. The palace of High Chancellor Zorath sat on a hill overlooking the capital city. It was ancient, built from white stone that seemed to glow in the moonlight. Guards stood at every entrance, their tall forms wrapped in ceremonial armor. They watched Claire with their 4 eyes as she approached, and she felt the weight of their contempt like a physical thing. The main hall was vast. Columns rose toward a ceiling lost in shadow, and between them moved the noble houses of the Velthary Empire. They were beautiful in their alien way, with pale blue skin and limbs that bent at angles humans couldn't match. Their voices filled the air with musical sounds, conversations in a language that seemed to sing even when speaking of ordinary things. Claire was the only human in the room. 200 Velthary nobles, and 1 small ambassador from a world they barely acknowledged existed. High Chancellor Zorath came to greet her personally. He was old for his kind, his skin faded to a lighter shade of blue, his movements slow and deliberate. But his eyes were sharp, studying her with an intelligence that missed nothing. "Ambassador Morgan," he said, his translator turning the musical words into flat English. "We are honored by your presence. The honor is mine, Chancellor." Claire performed the traditional bow, bending at the waist with her arms extended. She had practiced the gesture 1,000 times. "Your invitation was most unexpected, indeed." Zorath's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "We felt it was time to include humanity in our traditions. To see if your species can appreciate the finer aspects of civilization." The insult was subtle but clear. Claire let it pass without reaction. Beside the Chancellor stood another Velthary, younger and harder. His face was marked with scars, and his eyes held none of Zoreth's diplomatic warmth. This was Keth, the Chancellor's chief advisor. Claire had read his file many times. He was the leader of the faction that wanted humanity destroyed, and he made no effort to hide his hatred. "Ambassador," Keth said, his voice cold. "I hope the evening proves memorable. I'm certain it will." The dinner began. Claire was led to a seat near the middle of a long table, surrounded by nobles who ignored her existence. She didn't mind. It gave her time to observe, to study the faces around her, to notice things that others might miss. The food came in 7 courses, each one stranger than the last. Claire ate carefully, using the proper utensils, following the customs she had studied for months. The Velthari watched her with varying degrees of interest and disgust. Some seemed surprised that she knew their traditions. Others were clearly hoping she would make a mistake they could mock. The first course was something like soup, thick and purple, tasting of mushrooms and smoke. The second was a creature served whole, its many legs arranged in an artistic pattern. Claire ate it without hesitation. She had learned long ago that showing weakness was the fastest way to fail. By the third course, she had identified the key players in the room. Zoreth sat at the head of the table, playing the gracious host. Keth sat near him, barely eating, his attention fixed on Claire with uncomfortable intensity. And scattered among the nobles were others, she recognized from intelligence briefings. Allies of Keth, members of his faction, people who had publicly called for humanity's expulsion from the Alliance. There were too many of them. Far too many for a simple dinner party. The fourth course arrived. It looked like some kind of meat, pale and delicate, swimming in a sauce that smelled of flowers. Claire lifted her fork, took a bite, swallowed. The burning started immediately. It began in her throat, a sensation like swallowing fire spreading down into her chest. Her medical implant activated without any visible sign, flooding her nervous system with data. Toxin detected. Neural compound. Synthetic origin. Estimated lethality for human physiology, 97%. Time to incapacitation, 15 minutes. Time to death, 45 minutes. Someone had poisoned her food. Claire set down her fork with perfect calm. Across the table, Keth was watching her with barely concealed anticipation. He was waiting for her to scream, to collapse, to die in front of everyone while he watched and smiled. She picked up her glass instead, took a small sip of wine, and complimented the chef on the excellent flavor. Then she took another bite. The poison was moving through Claire's body like liquid fire. She could feel it spreading, burning through her veins, attacking her nervous system with brutal efficiency. Her medical implant was working desperately, producing counteragents, isolating the toxin where it could, trying to slow the damage. But this was no ordinary poison. Someone had designed it specifically to kill humans. Someone had done their research. Claire took another bite of the fourth course and smiled at the noble sitting across from her. The Velthari's name was Lady Sereth, and she was watching Claire with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. Like everyone else at the table, she had expected the human ambassador to be dead by now, or at least dying visibly, dramatically, in a way that would prove once and for all that humans were weak creatures who didn't belong among the stars. Instead, Claire was discussing the weather. "The rainy season on your southern continent," she said, her voice perfectly steady despite the fire in her chest. "I've read that it produces remarkable plant growth. Do the noble houses still maintain gardens there?" Lady Sereth blinked all 4 of her eyes. "Ah, yes. My family has estates near the coast. The gardens are quite famous." "How lovely. I would enjoy seeing them someday." Claire took another sip of wine. Her hand did not tremble. Her face did not change. Inside her body, a war was being fought between alien poison and human technology. But outside, she was the picture of diplomatic calm. What the Velthari didn't understand, what none of them could possibly understand, was that humans had been dealing with poison since before they were truly human. Earth was a death world. Every plant, every creature, every environment on that small blue planet had tried to kill humanity at some point in their long history. Humans had evolved eating things that should have killed them. Their bodies had developed defenses that no other species in the known galaxy possessed. The human liver was a miracle of biological engineering. It could process toxins that would kill a Velthari in seconds. The human kidney could filter compounds that would shut down most alien nervous systems. Human immune cells were aggressive, adaptable, capable of fighting threats they had never encountered before. And then there were the medical implants. 300 years of technology designed specifically because humans knew they were fragile compared to other species. They had compensated for their weakness with ingenuity. Claire's implant was flooding her system with synthetic antibodies, targeted counteragents, emergency medications that bought her time. The poison was strong, but human stubbornness was stronger. The 5th course arrived. It was a gelatinous substance, clear as glass, served in a crystal bowl. Claire ate it without hesitation. It tasted of copper and honey, strange but not unpleasant. Around her, the other nobles were whispering to each other, their musical voices carrying notes of confusion and concern. Near the head of the table, Ket's expression had changed. The anticipation was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. He had planned this assassination carefully. He had obtained a poison designed specifically for humans, tested it, confirmed its lethality. The human ambassador should have been dead 15 minutes ago. She should have collapsed into her soup, twitching and foaming. A clear demonstration of human weakness. Instead, she was asking Lady Sereth about gardening techniques. Claire noticed a servant refilling glasses at the far end of the table. A young Velthari female, her hands trembling slightly, her eyes avoiding everyone's gaze. This was the one who had delivered the poison, Claire realized. Not the mastermind, just the tool. A servant who had been bribed or threatened into doing something terrible. Claire felt a moment of sympathy for her. The girl was probably terrified, waiting for the moment when everything went wrong. She didn't know that it already had, just not in the way she expected. The 6th course was some kind of bird, small and perfectly roasted, served with a sauce that smelled of strange spices. Claire ate it carefully using the traditional utensils, following the customs she had studied so thoroughly. Each bite was a statement. Each swallow was a victory. High Chancellor Zorath was watching her now. The old politician's face was unreadable, but his 4 eyes missed nothing. He saw what was happening. He understood that something had gone terribly wrong with Keth's plan. Whether he had known about the assassination attempt beforehand, Claire couldn't tell. But he knew now, and he was measuring his options. The poison was getting worse. Claire could feel her heart beating irregularly, skipping beats, racing to catch up. Her vision blurred slightly at the edges, and she had to focus to keep her hands steady. The implant was losing the battle, slowly but surely. She had perhaps an hour before the damage became irreversible, maybe less. But she wasn't finished eating yet. Ambassador Morgan Zoroth said, his voice cutting through the conversation around them. You seem to be enjoying our cuisine very much, Chancellor. Claire met his gaze without flinching. The flavors are quite unique, especially the 4th course. I detected notes I've never encountered before. Something flickered in Zoroth's eyes. Recognition, perhaps? Or respect. Our chefs take great pride in their work, he said carefully. They use only the finest ingredients. I can tell. Please extend my compliments to them. The 7th course arrived. It was the final dish, a delicate arrangement of fruits and sweets that looked almost too beautiful to eat. Claire took her time with it, savoring each bite, making sure everyone in the room saw that she was finishing her meal, that she was still alive, that she was not afraid. Keth had stopped pretending to eat. He sat rigid in his chair, his scarred face twisted with frustration and growing panic. His plan had failed completely, and now he was trapped. If Claire revealed what had happened, if she named him as the one who had ordered her assassination, he would face the consequences. Velthari law was harsh on those who violated diplomatic immunity, but Claire wasn't ready to reveal anything yet. She wanted Keth to suffer first. She wanted him to sit there, watching her eat, knowing that his poison was useless, knowing that all his plans had come to nothing. She wanted him to feel what humans had felt for 50 years. Among the stars, the feeling of being underestimated, the feeling of being dismissed as weak, the feeling of proving everyone wrong. Claire finished the last bite of her meal. She set down her utensils with careful precision, exactly as tradition demanded. Then she dabbed her mouth with a napkin and smiled at her hosts. "That was delicious," she said. "But I believe there is one more matter we need to discuss." She stood up from the table. The room fell silent. Every Velthri in the hall turned to look at her. This small human woman who should have been dead, who was somehow still standing, still speaking, still refusing to die. "Someone," Claire said, her voice carrying across the vast space, "tried to kill me tonight." She let the words hang in the air. Then she started walking toward Keth. The silence in the great hall was absolute. 200 Velthri nobles sat frozen at the long table, their 4 eyes following Claire as she walked slowly around the room. Her footsteps echoed on the polished stone floor, each one a small thunder in the quiet. Claire's body was screaming at her to stop, to rest, to let the poison finish its work. Her medical implant was fighting a losing battle, and she could feel herself getting weaker with each passing minute. Her heart was beating too fast, then too slow. Her nerves were misfiring, sending phantom pains shooting through her limbs. She ignored all of it. She had work to do. "The poison was in the 4th course," she said, her voice calm and clear despite the fire in her veins. "A neural toxin, synthetic in origin, designed specifically for human physiology. Very sophisticated. Very expensive. Someone went to a great deal of trouble to create it." She was walking past the noble houses now, and she watched their faces carefully. Some looked shocked, their expressions genuine. They hadn't known about the plot. Others looked nervous, their eyes darting toward Keth, who sat rigid in his chair like a statue carved from ice. "In human culture," Claire continued, "attempting to poison a diplomatic envoy is considered an act of war. It is one of the most serious crimes that can be committed between nations. Entire empires have fallen because of such betrayals." She stopped behind the chair of Lord Vennick. He was a minor noble, his robes less elaborate than those around him, his position at the table far from the chancellor. But Claire had noticed him earlier in the evening, watching her with too much interest. And her implant had been working all through dinner, running facial recognition against the intelligence files stored in its memory. Lord Vennock was a known associate of Keth. He had written papers arguing for humanity's expulsion from the Galactic Alliance. He had connections to illegal weapons dealers and assassins. He was the one who had obtained the poison. "Lord Vennock," Claire said, and her voice was soft now, almost gentle. "Would you like to explain yourself?" Vennock's face went pale, his blue skin fading to something closer to white. He tried to speak, but no words came out. His 4 eyes were wide with terror. "I don't know what you're talking about," he finally managed. "This is outrageous. How dare you accuse me of anything?" "I haven't accused you yet," Claire smiled. "I simply asked if you would like to explain yourself. The fact that you assumed I was accusing you is very interesting." Whispers broke out among the nobles. They were looking at Vennock now, at Keth, at each other. The carefully constructed atmosphere of the dinner was falling apart, replaced by suspicion and fear. Keth finally spoke. "This is nonsense. The human is clearly unwell. Someone should call for a physician." "I'm perfectly fine," Claire said, though she could feel her left leg starting to go numb. The poison was spreading faster now. "Well, not perfectly fine. The poison is quite uncomfortable. But I have time yet." She turned to face Keth directly, and for a long moment they simply stared at each other. The Velthri advisor was trying to appear calm, but Claire could see the calculation behind his eyes. He was looking for a way out, a way to salvage the situation, a way to turn this disaster into something he could use. "You must be confused," Keth said slowly. "Perhaps the stress of being among so many of your betters has affected your judgment. No one here would violate the sacred laws of hospitality. Someone did. Prove it." Claire reached into a hidden pocket of her dress and produced a small device, no larger than her thumb. It was a medical scanner, standard equipment for all human diplomats. She held it up so everyone could see. "This has been recording my vital signs all evening," she said. It detected the poison the moment it entered my system. It has analyzed its composition, traced its origin, and identified it as a compound that has never appeared on any legal market. A compound that could only have been created in a specialized laboratory with access to human biological data. It has also been transmitting everything to the human embassy. My aide, Lieutenant Shaw, has already forwarded the data to every major news organization in the Alliance, and to the Galactic Council, and to the High Justice of the Velthari people. The color drained from Keth's face. By now, Claire continued, every species in the Alliance knows what happened here tonight. They know that a human ambassador was poisoned at a formal dinner hosted by High Chancellor Zeroth. They know that the poison was specifically designed to kill humans, and they are watching to see what happens next. She turned to face the Chancellor himself. Zoroth had not moved during her speech, but his ancient eyes were filled with something that might have been admiration, or perhaps resignation. Chancellor, Claire said, I do not believe you ordered this attack. You are too wise to risk everything for Summit. Hing so foolish. But it happened in your house, at your table, under your protection. The question now is how you will respond. Zoroth was silent for a long moment. Then he rose from his chair, his movements slow and deliberate. You are correct, Ambassador. I did not order this. I did not know it was planned. He turned to look at Keth, and his voice went cold. But someone in my house has betrayed me. Someone has violated the most sacred laws of our people. Keth started to speak, to protest, but Zoroth silenced him with a gesture. Lord Vennek, the Chancellor said, you will be taken into custody. You will answer for your crimes before the High Justice. Guards moved forward, their armor gleaming in the lamplight. Vennek tried to run. He made it exactly 3 steps before Claire caught him. What happened next would be remembered for generations. The small human woman moved faster than anyone expected. Her body fueled by adrenaline and something deeper. Something that humans had carried in their blood since the days when they fought predators with nothing but rocks and sticks. She grabbed Venek's arm and twisted, using his own momentum against him. He crashed to the floor with a cry of pain. The nobles gasped. Some screamed. Claire stood over Vennek, breathing hard, her vision starting to blur at the edges. The exertion had accelerated the poison's spread. She had maybe 20 minutes now, maybe less. But she wasn't finished yet. In human tradition, she said, her voice carrying across the silent hall, when someone tries to kill you and fails, you have the right to face them directly. You have the right to look into their eyes and show them that you are not afraid. She reached down and pulled Vennek to his feet. Are you afraid, Lord Vennek? He was trembling, his 4 eyes filled with terror. Please, he whispered. Please, I was only following orders. Keth made me do it. He said it would be good for the Empire. He said humans were a disease that needed to be cured. Claire looked at Keth, who was already being surrounded by guards. Thank you for that confession, she said. I'm sure the High Justice will find it very interesting. Then her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the polished stone floor. Claire hit the floor hard, but she barely felt the impact. The poison had spread too far now, numbing her extremities, disrupting the signals between her brain and her body. She could hear shouting around her, the musical voices of the Velthari raised in confusion and alarm. Someone was calling for a physician. Someone else was giving orders, but through the haze of pain and poison, Claire saw Keth. The advisor had broken free from the guards in the chaos. He was moving toward her, and in his hand was a blade that glittered with cruel edges. His face was twisted with rage, all pretense of civilization stripped away. If he was going to be exposed, if his plans were going to fail, then he would at least have the satisfaction of killing the human who had ruined everything. Claire tried to move, to get up, to defend herself. Her body refused to cooperate. The poison had done its work too well. She could only watch as Keth approached, his blade raised, his 4 eyes burning with hatred. Then something remarkable happened. Claire's hand shot out and grabbed Keth's ankle as he stepped over her. It was pure instinct, a reflex buried so deep in human biology that even poison couldn't touch it. The survival response, The fight-or-flight mechanism. The ancient programming that had kept humanity alive through ice ages and plagues and extinction events. Her conscious mind had surrendered. But something older and more fundamental had taken over. Keth stumbled, surprised by the grip. He tried to kick free, but Claire held on with strength that her damaged body shouldn't have possessed. Adrenaline flooded her system, overriding the poison for precious seconds. Her medical implant detected the surge and responded. Redirecting all its remaining resources to keeping her mobile, she pulled herself up Keth's body like climbing a rope, using him as leverage. He slashed at her with the blade, but she twisted away, accepting a shallow cut across her shoulder instead of the killing blow he intended. Blood soaked through her diplomatic dress, but she didn't care. Blood was temporary. Survival was eternal. They were on the floor together now, struggling. Keth's superior size and strength matched against Claire's desperate will to live. The Velthari nobles had scattered, pressing against the walls, watching with horrified fascination. The guards were trying to intervene, but the two combatants were moving too quickly, too violently, for anyone to get a clear opening. Claire's training took over. Military hand-to-hand combat, adapted for low-gravity environments and alien physiology. She had spent years learning how to fight creatures bigger and stronger than herself. The Velthari had natural advantages, longer limbs, more joints, and skin that was tougher than human skin. But they also had weaknesses. Their joints bent in ways that could be exploited. Their eyes were sensitive to sudden movement, and they had never, in their 10,000 years of civilization, faced anything like a human who had decided not to die. She broke Keth's wrist with a sharp twist. The blade clattered to the floor. He screamed, a high musical sound that echoed through the hall. Claire didn't give him time to recover. She drove her elbow into his throat, targeting the vulnerable cluster of nerves that all Velthari shared. He gagged, choking, and she used the moment to scramble on top of him, pinning him to the ground with her knees. Her vision was fading. Black spots danced at the edges, and she could feel her heart stuttering in her chest. The implant was screaming warnings about organ failure, about neural damage, about death approaching. She had seconds left, maybe less. She used them well. "You thought we were weak," she said, her voice barely a whisper now. "You thought because we die easily, we feared death. You thought you could poison us, dismiss us, push us back to our little world and forget we existed." She grabbed Keth's face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. "You were wrong." Keth tried to speak, to beg, to threaten. Nothing came out except a wet, gurgling sound. "Humans don't fear death," Claire continued. "We've lived with it since we crawled out of the mud. Every day on our world was a fight for survival. Every generation earned their existence through blood and sacrifice. We didn't become the dominant species on Earth because we were the strongest or the fastest or the deadliest. We became dominant because we refused to give up, because we kept fighting when everything said we should lie down and die." She could feel the darkness closing in now. Her body was shutting down, systems failing one by one. But she held on, forcing the words out through sheer force of will. "We crawled out of caves and conquered a planet that wanted to kill us. We survived ice ages and supervolcanoes and asteroids. We fought plagues that killed half our population and came back stronger. We invented fire and language and mathematics. We split the atom and walked on our moon and built ships that carry us between the stars." Claire leaned closer, until her face was inches from Keth's. "And we did all of that while being weaker than almost everything around us. We did it because we're stubborn, because we're creative, because when the universe tells us we can't survive, we look the universe in the eye and say, 'Watch me.'" She released Keth's face and sat back. The guards had finally reached them, pulling her away, lifting the injured advisor to his feet. Claire let them move her, too weak now to resist. She had done what she needed to do. High Chancellor Zeroth was standing over her. His ancient face was unreadable, but his voice was soft when he spoke. "Your physician is on his way, Ambassador." "Hold on, I'm not going anywhere," Claire managed. "Humans are hard to kill. You should remember that." She saw Kevin burst through the main doors, a medical team behind him. They were carrying equipment, shouting instructions, pushing through the crowd of nobles to reach her. The human technology that kept their fragile species alive among the stars was coming to save her again. Claire smiled and closed her eyes. She could hear voices arguing somewhere above her. Zoroth was giving orders. Guards were escorting Keth and Vennik away. The dinner party had turned into something nobody had expected. A moment that would be remembered for centuries. The medical team reached her. She felt needles sliding into her arm, felt the cool rush of counter-agents entering her bloodstream. Kevin was holding her hand, his voice tight with worry as he told her she was going to be okay, that she had to hold on, that she couldn't die now after everything she had done. "I'm not dying," Claire whispered, "just resting." The darkness took her then, but it was a peaceful darkness, the kind that comes with knowing you've won. The poison had done its worst, and she had survived. The assassins had tried to kill her. She had defeated them. Humanity had proven itself once again, not through strength or speed or natural weapons, through stubbornness, through refusal, through the ancient human tradition of spitting in death's face and daring it to try again. Claire Morgan, human ambassador, had finished her meal, and then she had shown the galaxy what humans really were. Claire woke in a medical pod, surrounded by soft white light and the quiet hum of machines. Her body felt strange, distant, wrapped in a cocoon of chemicals that dulled the pain and helped her damaged cells repair themselves. She had no idea how much time had passed. Hours, maybe days. It didn't matter. She was alive. Kevin was there when she opened her eyes. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, his uniform wrinkled like he hadn't changed clothes since the dinner. When he saw her awake, his face broke into a smile of pure relief. "Welcome back," he said. "You scared me half to death. Only half." Claire's voice was a croak, her throat raw and dry. "I must be losing my touch." Kevin helped her drink some water, supporting her head with gentle hands. The medical pod had done its work well. She could feel her strength returning, slowly but surely. Human technology was remarkable when it came to keeping humans alive. "What happened?" she asked when she could speak again. "After I passed out," Chaos Kevin said. "The good kind." Chancellor Zoroth had Keth and Vennik arrested immediately. The other members of their faction are being rounded up as we speak. The High Justice has opened a full investigation. In the news. He shook his head. The news has gone everywhere. Everywhere. Every species in the Alliance has seen the footage. Someone recorded the whole thing on their personal device. You, finishing your meal while poisoned. You, confronting the assassins. You, fighting Keith on the floor while the poison was killing you. It's been watched billions of times. Claire closed her eyes. She hadn't planned for that. She hadn't thought about cameras or recordings or the possibility that the whole galaxy would see her at her most desperate. But perhaps it was better this way. Perhaps this was exactly what humanity needed. "What are they saying?" she asked. "The other species." Kevin was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a datapad. "I'll show you." The first message was from the Corellian ambassador, a species known for their rigid honor codes. "We have watched the footage from the Velthary dinner. We offer our deepest respects to Ambassador Morgan. She has shown the galaxy what honor truly means." The second was from the Threll Collective, a hive mind that rarely communicated with individual species. "We have observed human resilience before. We did not understand it. We are beginning to understand now." The third was from the Narati Federation, ancient rivals of the Velthary. "Humanity has proven that small bodies can hold great spirits. We look forward to strengthening our alliance, or hundreds more." Messages of respect, of admiration, of surprise. Species that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant were suddenly paying attention. Species that had been hostile were reconsidering their positions. The story of the human ambassador who ate her dinner while dying, then fought her assassin with her bare hands, had captured the imagination of the entire galaxy. "High Chancellor Zoroth wants to see you," Kevin said, when Claire had finished reading. "When you're well enough." "He's asked for a private meeting, has he?" He was very insistent. Said it was important. Claire considered this. Zoroth was a politician, a survivor. He had held power on the Velthary homeworld for decades. navigating factional conflicts and foreign threats with careful skill. He wouldn't ask for a meeting without a purpose. "Tell him I'll be ready tomorrow," she said. "I want to walk in there on my own feet." It took 3 weeks for Claire to fully recover. The poison had done significant damage, and even with the best medical technology humanity possessed, healing took time. But she used that time well, studying the reports that Kevin brought her, watching the galaxy's reaction unfold, preparing for what came next. When she finally walked into Chancellor Zoroth's private chambers, she was dressed in fresh diplomatic attire, her posture straight, her eyes clear. The old Velthary watched her approach with something that might have been admiration. "Gas Ambassador Morgan," he said. "You look well. I feel well. Your physicians were helpful once mine finished the difficult work." Zoroth acknowledged the subtle jab with a nod. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." They sat across from each other at a small table, and for a moment neither spoke. The silence stretched, comfortable in a way it wouldn't have been before that night. "I owe you an apology," Zoroth finally said. "What happened at my dinner was a disgrace. Keth acted without my knowledge, but he acted in my house, under my protection. The failure is mine. Apologies are welcome," Claire said. "But they are not why you asked to see me." "No." The Chancellor's 4 eyes studied her with careful interest. "I asked to see you because I want to understand something. When you realized you had been poisoned, why did you keep eating?" Claire considered her answer carefully, "Because I wanted to make a point." "What point?" "That humans don't surrender. That we don't give up. That we will keep fighting until the very last moment, even when there's no hope left." She leaned forward slightly. "Your people have known us for 50 years, Chancellor. In all that time, you've seen us as weak, small, fragile, unworthy of respect. We were wrong. Yes. But simply saying so changes nothing. I needed to show you. I needed to show the whole galaxy." Claire spread her hands. "Now everyone has seen what humans really are. Not the strongest species. Not the most advanced. But perhaps the most stubborn, the most willing to endure, the most determined to survive." Zoroth was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It was a strange sound, musical and soft. Not quite like human laughter, but close enough. "You terrify me, Ambassador," he said. "Your species terrifies me. Not because you are dangerous in the obvious ways, but because you are dangerous in ways we never anticipated." "Is that why you wanted to see me? To tell me you're afraid?" "No." Zoroth's laughter faded, replaced by something more serious. "I wanted to see you because I want to propose a new alliance. Not the grudging cooperation we have had until now, but a true partnership. The Velthary have much to offer humanity, technology, and knowledge and connections across the galaxy. And humanity has much to offer us, such as perspective." The Chancellor's voice was soft. "We have been civilized for 10,000 years. We have forgotten what it means to struggle. We have forgotten what it means to fight for survival." He gestured toward Claire. "You reminded us. You, with your poisoned blood and your stubborn heart and your refusal to die quietly." Claire studied the old politician's face, looking for deception, for hidden motives. She found only sincerity. "I'll need to discuss this with my government," she said. "But I believe they will be receptive." "I hope so." They talked for another hour, working out the details of the proposed alliance. When Claire finally left, walking out into the alien sunshine of the Velthary homeworld, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope the galaxy was watching humanity now. Watching and wondering what these strange, stubborn, fragile creatures would do next. They had expected nothing from the species that died so easily, that broke so quickly, that seemed so ill-suited for the harsh realities of interstellar civilization. They had been wrong. Claire Morgan had shown them the truth. Humans were not defined by their weaknesses. They were defined by their refusal to accept it, by their endless creativity in overcoming obstacles, by their ancient primal determination to survive no matter what the universe threw at them. The story spread across the stars. It's told and retold in 1,000 languages on 1,000 worlds. The story of the human ambassador who was poisoned at a diplomatic dinner, who finished her meal, who defeated her assassin, and who changed the course of galactic history. It was a story about strength disguised as weakness, about courage in the face of death, about what happens when you underestimate humanity, and it was only the beginning.